so much, Bwana Chair. Please allow me to consult for a minute. So we shall take questions after this. The Secretariat is taking note and we'll share with the respective speakers so that we are able to respond to all of them. Now want to welcome Patrick Wameo, who is the next speaker. Patrick is a chairman at Pacemaker International. He's a personal finance management and business advisory expert. He's also a financial planning coach and corporate trainer. I believe even as he makes a presentation, he'll tell us more about himself. And I believe that we are going to have a very, very fruitful session with him. So let's put our hands together as Patrick Wameo speaks to us. Karibu, Patrick.
Habari zenu. Which languages do you speak here? You're testing my French capacity. 0, or is it negative? Okay, I have been asked to spend about 5 or so minutes on Sasra before I can go to the main topic. Are you ready? Simeka sana. Simusimame tu. And beyond kusimama, do something. Just do something with you. Sawa sawa? So I think I'll do that very fast. You can resume your seats. Sasra is the official regulator of SACCOs. I think if you read the law clearly, there has been argument as to whether SASRA regulates or should regulate all SACCOs or not. Now, there's something called the spirit of the law and the actual situation. The law that brought SASRA on board has a history. And the history has to do with the entire life of cooperative movements in Kenya. I'll start somewhere from 1946 and just give you highlights so that you appreciate where we are. 1946 is the year when the African was allowed to participate in the cooperative and specifically in handling coffee and tea. They were previously only able to see the Muzungu do the thing. So although the cooperative movement in Kenya is as old as 1908, the real beginning of life was 1946. And between 1946 and when the country got independence, there were several ordinances that were passed by the then colonial government to try to increase the role that the African played in the cooperative movement. I will not discuss that. But come 1955, then the former Ronald Ngala, the late, not the former, the late, was given the first major role in putting cooperative movement in the space of the country. And without saying much, let me say that the sole purpose of a cooperative was to put money in the pockets ya mwananchi. If you don't have money in your pocket, you are not participating in the economy. So you say amen. Hello? So the purpose of cooperatives, and I've not said SACCO or not SACCO. The purpose of cooperatives and the role of Wana-Anga at the point of independence is important. It was the time when only the Muzungu had the money, and the Muzungu was doing what? Was living. So how the African put money in their pocket? Through the cooperative movement. Are we together? So SACCOs, being an element of the cooperative movement, need to be understood from that history. Now, there were very few SACCOs until around 1986. If you remember, those who are here, the structural adjustment program that was pushed by the World Bank and IMF and others on the country called Kenya. One of the requirements, because cooperatives until that time was a government affair. If you wanted to do anything with a cooperative, the government was participating in it. Madam Aremo was here. Those days, Aremo would have to sign every check that you have signed before it would leave this place. Am I saying something? So come the structural adjustment program. I was a young man in the university that time. When we arrived in the office, were the first casualties. The government was required to reduce the participation in what was intended to be a private business. Reducing participation in what was supposed to be private business. Cooperatives were supposed to be private business, but managing public. Even today, cooperatives are private entities, but managing what? Public funds. So that is where the relationship comes in, and I'll discuss that a little bit later. But let me go back to the time I'm discussing, because the problems that the reasons for SASRA's existence started when the government withdrew its direct participation in SACCOs. These people sitting here, who do you call them? Not directors, they are called who? Board or management. Na sisi wengine? Members. Kwani hawa sio members? Hawa pia ni members. When the government withdrew its participation, because the government used to control, the word is control? Control. When the CEO did a check to me, Aremo would have to sign it, or this gentleman would have to sign it. So when that role was removed, in other words, the government was part of what you are doing. The government now moved to a role where they were offering guidelines, not control. Am I saying something? Now, when that was intended to be a good thing, hatukukuwa tumezoea. Ni kama kutoa nyani kwa miti, you bring it down and start feeding it in a new way. So what happened in 1980s and until 1987, the cooperative movement, especially SACCOs, nearly collapsed. The typical person sitting in this place became the person who was feeding himself first before you. And when I say that in Kenya, you know what I mean. So I'll leave it there. So what happened is then the government decided to bring in regulations to secure that public fund. The fund is public. It's a private entity, but the fund is public. Why? Because the people who are contributing money to this SACCO are not necessarily here to manage it themselves. That's the relationship. So the Cooperative Societies Act, the journey towards the creation of that first act, which was prepared in 1987, then began in earnest. And even the act as it appeared in 1987 still had some weaknesses. So it was again amended so that the 204 version which you have today introduced the Office of the Commissioner of Cooperatives to offer guidelines. And that is why now you have a county or a sub-county, a county and sub-county director of cooperatives representing the Commissioner of Cooperatives in every meeting where you are handling serious issues, to interpret for you the law. And that's why they are the returning officer on most issues. Am I saying something? Sasra came in to deal with the ufujaji. Is that Luo really? You know, see, the Luos like me have a problem with some Swahili words. Kuna uvuja na ufuja. Which one is the bad one? The ufujaji bit. The kuiba. Am I saying something? Or the mismanagement. No, kuiba, sometimes it's just mismanagement. You remember 2013, around, because Sasra began to live around that, around 13 years ago, a number of these big circles had a very big problem of having bought land that had no value. Am I saying something? That is, the money is not stolen, but the asset is wrong. So Sasra came in to ensure that if you put money in a circle called a deposit, then it is properly managed. And to do that, there are 5 things that Sasra do, 6, which I need everyone to leave this place with you. I also just wrote them. There are 5 things that Sasra do. And I have summarized them here, but I will not discuss them. There's a slide there that can have them, but I will not discuss them. To do so, Sasra must do something called prudential guidelines or prudential standards, but the prudential standards don't come from nowhere. They come from somewhere. Before we discuss what those things are, which I will not discuss in detail, we discuss where they come from. Financial institutions, the type of Sasra, the type of a SACCO, a bank, or a microfinance is governed by 6 items called camel. So ukiulizwa hiyo Sasra ni mnyama gani, useme ni camel. Najua camel ile yuko na mgongo nini, the big hump. So the camel are 6 things. C stands for capital adequacy. The role of Sasra is to ensure that this circle, and indeed any other, that receives a member's money, whether you receive it per month or annually or through the circle or no forcer, you are really supposed to be in Sasra. You are supposed to maintain adequate capital for the size of your operation. The adequacy is relative to your size, so that when there's a guideline saying, for example, you must have 10% of your share capital, it doesn't mean that you have 10% equal to police circle. Police circle has a balance sheet of 24 billion. 10% is 2.4. Yenu ni ngapi? 1 billion. So the minimum of 10% is how much? 100 million. Naturally, that makes sense. So capital adequacy means that when you are carrying this amount of business, what is supporting it must be strong. Am I saying something? In other words, if I have these things here as evidence of what I'm discussing, you have another one that is empty. Yes, if you have these 2 bottles, if you try to balance this bottle on top of these 2, ni ngumu sana. Make sense? But if I make them 3, and I even try to carry this one, they'll carry. That makes sense? Yes, so when you have a certain size up there, you must have the capital carries the business. So all those loans are carried by capital. That makes sense? So the capital must be of a certain quantity to support what you have there. That is called capital adequacy. And if the ratio relating to capital adequacy is breached, believe me, utapata kifuli ingine imeongezwa kwa hiyo yako asubuhi. Utaulizwa, mtaamuka tu mkienda pale kwa CEO, ameenda kuingia, anakuta kuna kifuli gani ingine juu ya yake. That one is not negotiable. The second thing that Sasra does is called asset quality. Sasra ensures that assets have quality. What are these assets? In a SACCO, the first asset, 80%, 90% of assets, the SACCO has the loans. Before you add your computers, furniture, and all those things. So the quality of the loans is determined by how well you are repaying them. And that is what Madam talked about here, about she mentioned to you, if a loan is not paid for 1 month, how much must be provided? If a loan is not paid for 60 days, how much must be provided for it? What happens exactly? Let me put this to you in a mathematical language. I teach mathematics. So Mimi, I don't know. If this is the loan you borrowed, then this is the installment due at the end of this month. You have not paid this month. So this is overdue for 1 month. 1 month. Then you must, as a manager, you must provide for 5% of this, not 5% of. You are providing for 5% of what? Of what was borrowed and outstanding. Am I saying something? Because this hasn't been paid for 1 month. Then you move to 2 months. The percentage growth. What we mean by providing? Providing means the product to go and remove a portion equal to 5% of this month. If it grows 25, remove 25%. That's something. So the more loans you have which are not performing, the more money is being removed. And if they are not paid completely, what is removed is to pay them all. What it means, what would have been dividends, what would have been interest disappears by repaying loans that others have not done what? Have not paid. Am I saying something? Or I'm told this is a virtual group. So I'll have to repeat myself. But I was demonstrating something. And you cannot demonstrate those who are not here. So Bwana Yesu asifiwe. You cannot talk about things spiritually. This is really physical. So are we clear here? So that's 25%, that 50%, that 100%, as the loan gets worse and worse, means that the entire value of the loan will have to be provided for at the end of 364 days. Melewana. So come a loan by 1 million has not been paid for 1 year. Then now the amount which has to be removed from your profit is exactly 1 million. It is no longer available. That 1 million has gone to pay off the loan that someone did not. Why is that so? The why is important. When you come to this circle to borrow money, you don't borrow your money. You borrow everybody's money. And if you borrow everybody's money, then everybody's money must come back. That's the principle of lending. Now, in product development, we do it 2 ways. We price it in the product, some portion of it, so that we know that 10% of the money will always fail to come. So we price the loan in a manner that it pays back that 10%, which won't come back. Then it pays the balance and we still make money. But we also know that it can rain so high, even that the guys of meteorology cannot tell if it will rain. So that you can't. But you can't tell the volume, can you? You can tell how big it was, but you will not tell how bad Nairobi looked like. Until Nairobi is bad, it's bad. So have I done my justice to the 2 things? The third point, the third thing SASRA does, and any bank does, is looking at the quality of management. Say amen. So for that reason, SASRA, like a central bank, has introduced a requirement for anybody who wants to lead a financial institution to meet what is called fit and proper. Now, this man standing here was the first youngest general manager in a bank. And at the age of 29, I had to go through something called fit and proper test at Central Bank. It is about you being taken through DCI. Let's make it look very, very simple. Can you be seen like a glass? so good here. You stay in the board. If your record there is not as good, then they come with a regret. You gave us 9 board members. Unfortunately, you may approve 8, who you may angusha, and don't ask us why. So then go and elect that other board member. Hapo tumeelewana? Aya, number 4. SASRA is interested in ensuring that a SACCO behaves like a bank. When you want your money, you get it when you want. It has adequate liquidity. So that L is for liquidity. So when you bring your deposits into a SACCO, the SACCO must apportion the money on different types of assets according to the requirements SASRA has given them, so that they should be able to manage the needs of members for liquidity anytime. If you walk into your bank and you are told you want 100,000, come and take 50 tomorrow, what happens to your mind? Iyo imeenda wapi? Here we say imeenda. Iyo imeenda. So we all come to begin to take our money. So to avoid something called a run on a bank or a run on a SACCO, the board, the CEO and the board of management are required to put the monies they receive in a certain quality of assets by proportions guided by SASRA, and that is not negotiable. It's one of the prudential guidelines that I was talking about here, but I will not discuss them. So that how they control that, they give you what? Prudential guidelines. Hapo tumeelewana? Then the next one is the S. The S element is a bit classy. It's called sensitivity. Risk 1, risk 2, risk 3, risk 4. I'll just mention a few risks. The most common risk is what's called market risk. One of the items of market risk is interest rates. What happens if interest rates did what? Go up, how will SACCOs behave? The usual one that all of you face is called for, and not foreign exchange, bad loans. Like now, in the post period, we've been having no post since Corona, and during this election period when the country has been borrowing a lot. How does that put the community of people's pockets? How is it stressed? How does that stress affect loan repayments across financial institutions? That's why the governor decided out of his wisdom that during COVID, haulipi anything but utumie cash, lipa na M-Pesa na haulipi. Tangu irudi in January or February, January, the number of people who are paying things using M-Pesa have gone where? Have gone down. Because you have 16 bob, 10 bob, 5 bob. Every time you pay something, goes. And the money imekuwa kidogo. Hapo tumeelewana? So in a nutshell, that is what SASRA is all about. So ukisikia kwamba SASRA imesema hii ifanywe, SASRA is not speaking. SASRA issues what? What are these? Prudential guidelines. The management are issued with guidelines. They are the same for every player in the SACCO. So there are 2 types of regulations. Kuna regulation for the big boys, the ones called 176, the first regulation that SASRA issued. These guidelines are slightly different for that group. There's the second one for SACCOs that came into regulation recently called non-deposit, non-withdrawal. The people who cannot withdraw, the people who can only allow you to put money but don't have a FOSA. That are 100 million deposits and above. They also have requirements very much in the same line, but some amounts are different. Hapo tumeelewana? Na kwa vile sikujia hiyo leo, mtaninuia radhi. That is not Luo, but I also try. Hapo tumeelewana? If there's a question, I will answer at the right time. There is Kamel, I skipped E. Oh, serious. E is earnings. The ability of the institution to keep producing sustainable earnings. That's the most important. How could I have forgotten it? You are in business. So earnings is important. But remember, in a SACCO, earnings, hello? Let me teach you this more because this one now links up with the one I was going to go to. Earnings in a circle is lopsided. When I mean lopsided, it's not mathematical, but it's upside down. A circle is the only place where someone comes and puts his money as a deposit, borrows at the lowest rate, but wants the highest return. Am I saying something? When you come to ask for dividends, you want 15%. When you want a loan, you want 12. Now, 15 and 12 are related mathematically. You must earn, then do what? Give. So you cannot earn 12. The circle is earning 12 when you borrow at 12. But when you have borrowed at 12, at the end of the year, you want how much? 15. That mathematics works in a circle. It works, by the way, it works. What it means to you is this. You are the only place where you can earn more than you pay. The law is a nice thing. This guy borrows thrice, this one borrows once. Hii mara tatu yake imechukulia huyu mara ngapi? Mara mbili. That's how that law works. So kuna wale wana borrow zaidi. So ukiwa mtu wa kuborrow zaidi ujue unasaidia wengine ku earn bila kuborrow. And two, in a circle, short-term loans, the ones that are supposed to be the lowest interest, cost you the highest. When you want school fees for 12 months, the interest rate is higher than the one for 5 years. Hello? That mathematics is what makes it work in a circle. You take a development loan, you pay 13%. You borrow an emergency loan, you pay 21%. That 21% is what makes what brings the money that is now used to pay you 15%, even though you pay 12%. That's why it is more expensive. It beats the law of nature to lend short and charge highest. In nature, you lend longest, you charge highest. In a circle, the shortest loan is the most expensive. The longest loan is the cheapest, because a circle is a social and economic. Social comes first. Social and economic enterprise. So social comes first. When you borrow for upuzi, you pay more. When you borrow for development, you pay less. That's the language. If you have not understood me. Ukichukua ya upuzi ya kujivinjari weekend, you pay high. Ukichukua ya kujenga nyumba, you pay what? Less. Hapo tumaliza maneno? Haya. So that's the reason why you should invest in a circle. You put all your shares. Unfortunately, most of us were misled when you joined the circle about the meaning of shares. And I say unfortunately, but it may as well be this large group here. A lot of us do not understand that in law, you are required to own this circle even up to 20% alone. You can own up to 20% this circle alone. The minimum in the bylaw is the minimum you can own. The maximum is how much? 20%. And you are not required to pay it on one day. You just pay per month. You can pay your shares per month in law. What are in a practice? You buy mara moja umesahaulika. You can buy your shares every month. Every month. And if you are bright, and I talk to bright people, if you are bright, what do? Ongeza shilingi mia ngapi? As you put your shares, as you buy shares, you also do your savings. As you do your 1,000 for savings, put 10% of it as shares. You will meet the requirements of SASRA of 10% of share capital without causing a problem, while at the same time growing your shares. And shares will pay you long after you've left this place where we see the weather. When you can no longer check the weather where you are, inakuchapa kama anybody else. When you are chini ya mti, M-Pesa goes chwang, dividends forever. Ukichoka na earn dividends, just fill that form, transfer to your son or daughter. So uliambiwa kijana anazaingia kwa sako? member. Why am I here? I came here to discuss money. And my brief is that I should prepare you for retirement. Hello? Are we clear? The brief I have is to prepare you for what? Retirement. I'm told the youngest person in this place is 30 years. And if that is true, then I have a job for the next 1 hour. Serious. Now, two things which we need to deal with, mapema. The first one is a quote that I have to tell you. That no plan, however well done, however detailed, no plan, however detailed, survives the first contact with nature. So that I want to tell you that a plan on paper is not adequate. What is adequate is what is done. It will not be as you planned, it will be different. No plan, however detailed, will survive the first contact with nature. It has to be revised. So why are we here? To discuss how to plan our lives. Retirement. I am 7 years from retirement. I'm assuming that I'm a government officer. I'll retire at 60, even though I'm self-employed. So I've told myself in the head, young man, you are 7 years away from that mark. Anytime. So I'll tell you a few things in the manner they should be done and what should be done by who, because all ages are covered here. But I'm told the youngest is 30, so I'll deal with 30 going forward. I'll tell you a few things about what you should tell your children to do, how to do what you did not do. But I will also tell you how to move from where you are now, going where? Forward. Now after that, we leave each other. Naenda baringo yangu, na wewe ubaki hapa. For those who are meeting me for the first time, my name is Wameo. It's a Luhya name. It means that which sweeps clean. And I am going to sweep. That is important. The first message is there. Tarehe ngapi leo? 3. Imekwisha mabado iko. You know what I mean? Siliingia juice. Imekwisha mabado iko. Ilienda. Sasa ni hii tu. Sasa ni kufikiria what we need to do, but there's no money. If you don't go through this, God did not pass outside your house. Shetani only. Shetani comes with a lot of money that may make you think things are okay. If you go through this, then you are a man of God. You go through natural life. Cycles when there's plenty, and naturally after plenty, there's what? The lowest. But should we be like this? The answer is no. But to get out of it is not to say, I don't want to be in it. Is to go ahead and implement something that requires a lot of pain over time to achieve it. It can be achieved. 16 years ago, I became this gentleman's neighbor. I don't think he even remembers me. I stayed outside in the next home to his for 1 month. That's the month when I quit employment. Somewhere in the hills in Ngong. I left my house here, 85,000 a month. I left my car, brand new, 11,000 kilometers driven. You saw it for a few months before I sold it for a few days. I sold it in the same month. There are some pains you must take to organize. Am I saying something? This man has taken that pain. Today is 15 years, 16 years this June. If things are not working, stop. Hello? Am I saying something? If things are not working, do what? Stop, because I'm not talking to a student here. Mchezo wapaka napanya inaingia inatoroka. The money gets into your pocket. No sooner had it arrived. Standing order, tena uko hivi. Fuliza, sijui nani, every neighbor that knows how to give you when you're in trouble comes around. We want to stop that first here, then goes up. For you to stop it being here, you must stop it where? Here. And so be with me for the next about 45 minutes, because in the next 45 minutes, I will not deal with the pocket. The deal na nini? Now here, if you change your attitude and change your ways, you will surely change in the pocket. You don't need to talk about it. It'll change. I have seen it. I was taught and I have seen it. It can change. Key thing is to know how to deal with these things in a manner that they stop being a whole cloud of everything. They come like this. You move from having 20 items bothering you to around 6 bothering you. Am I saying something? That is a choice you make here, not here. And while as a man you may make this choice and discuss with your wife, don't think that she will for once move at the same pace at you. Mine did not move for 11 years. Kama yako ameingia mwaka moja na ame move. Thank God you're okay. This to come to a place where you have a few prioritized items. It's not easy. I was a GM in CBA when I was 29 years in a Kenyan bank. Number two, I earned shillings a month before I turned 30. 2,000 2,000. Am I saying something? How many years later today? 22 complete. So I'm not talking to someone that I've not seen money. I have seen mine and I have seen the banks. I have seen and I have managed businesses of 19 richest families in Kenya. I'll give you a share of their experiences. People are not rich by accident. There's something you are not doing right, my brother. They say, oh, in Nigeria, I don't know here. They are my brother, oh, yosio yangu. Mimi nakuambia, there's something you're not doing right. Right. You might not reach their level, but you will not be where you are. Am I saying something? Just go and I'll tell you a few rules to follow to move from that one to this. And the first one is called, write it somewhere, waist watch. Okay. Yes. Oh, that's why I email. Come. Yes, I am. Go there and send it to yourself. So I'm told the online audience cannot access this. Just type your name, Murioki. I think I have you somewhere. Murioki. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Insert. No. No, it's one. So now I can't go to that many. There's no time. Go to miscellaneous. Some desktop. There's something called CBK. And there is in CBK, there is virtual. Send that. Okay. Please type your name there. Okay. While we are dealing with the online audience, the slides will not say much. I am the one who will say all the points because there's no time for what? For those slides. But there are a few I will refer you to because they are visual in nature and you need to see them. So the first thing you do is called waist watch. Andika waist watch. This will be yours. We meet all the time.
Yeah, members, as you heard, the cooperative officers have to go to hand on an election. So we'll just give him 2 minutes to say bye and so that we continue with our education. Sorry for that interruption.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, members, for having taken your time to come to this very important gathering. It is an important gathering because one of the 7 universal cooperative principles, I know you are not new with these terms, is education, training, and information. And so as a member of a cooperative society, if you don't see your board members inviting you to such forum, when any annual general meeting or special general meeting comes, whichever comes first, your first complaint should be that. How comes you never invited us to an education and training forum? Sometimes members have never understood the importance of this, and therefore they have failed to attend. If I look at this hall, then I see some empty chairs. But I'm saying that I may not term that as a poor attendance chair because some are attending online. So then we should always evaluate ourselves by seeing how many members did you expect to attend this forum? Then what was the actual attendance? So what was the variance? What therefore caused that?